A bully hit the new girl at lunch, but what happened next had the entire cafeteria in shock. The cafeteria at Westbrook High was so loud you could barely hear your own thoughts, until the sound of a tray hitting the floor sliced through the noise like a gunshot. Every head turned, food splattered across the white tiles, and standing in the middle of it all was Nia Coleman, her gray hoodie streaked with orange spaghetti sauce. Across from her stood Logan Pierce, 6 feet tall, captain of the soccer team, and the kind of guy everyone either feared or followed. His friends were grinning, waiting for the punchline, but there wasn't one. Logan took a step closer. "What, you gonna cry or something?" he sneered. Nia didn't move. She just stood there, calm, too calm. Her brown eyes locked on his, steady and quiet, like she'd seen worse before. That silence made him angrier. "Say something," he shouted, his voice echoing off the walls. But she didn't. Instead, she crouched down, started picking up her tray, slow, deliberate, ignoring the laughter that rippled through the tables. Her hands trembled slightly, but her face stayed unreadable. Then Logan shoved her shoulder, hard. Gasps exploded around the room. Her backpack hit the ground. She stumbled but didn't fall. For half a second, the entire cafeteria went dead quiet. Even the lunch lady froze mid-scoop. And then it happened. Logan's smirk twisted, his knees buckled. A strangled sound left his mouth as he clutched his stomach, face twisting in pain. Within seconds, the self-proclaimed king of Westbrook High was on the floor, crying. Everyone stared. No one understood. "Yo, what did the... Logan?" one of his friends stammered. The boy's face had gone pale. His breathing came in sharp, shallow bursts. "I can't," he managed to say before another wave of pain hit him. A teacher rushed over, yelling for space. Students backed away, phones already out, filming. Nia didn't move. She just stood there, watching him, a quiet expression of something between pity and exhaustion washing over her face. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "You shouldn't have done that." And just like that, she walked out. Past the stairs, past the whispers, out of the cafeteria doors. Nobody said a word. When the paramedics arrived, Logan was still on the floor, crying, shaking, and unable to explain what happened. He kept saying the same thing over and over. "She didn't touch me. She didn't touch me." But no one could make sense of it. The next morning, the video had already hit every group chat in the school. The comments were split in half. Some called her dangerous, others called her brave. But the truth? Nobody really knew who Nia Coleman was, or what really happened in that cafeteria. Something had changed that day, and it wasn't just Logan. But before anyone could figure it out, people started whispering about Nia, where she came from, and what she'd been through before showing up at Westbrook High. 2 weeks before the cafeteria incident, Nia Coleman was just another new face trying to blend in at Westbrook High, a school tucked in the heart of Madison, Wisconsin. She moved there with her mother after things went south back home in Atlanta. Her mom, Denise Coleman, had taken a job as a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital. It was a big move for both of them. New city, new school, new start. But starting over isn't easy when you look and sound different from everyone around you. From the first day, Nia stood out. She wasn't loud or flashy, but there was something about her presence. Quiet confidence mixed with this air of self-control that made people curious and others uncomfortable. When she introduced herself in class, a few students smirked at her southern accent. "Say that again," one boy whispered, laughing. She ignored it. She'd heard worse. At lunch, she sat alone with a peanut butter sandwich and a book. It wasn't that she didn't want friends, she just wasn't about to force herself into conversations that weren't meant for her. Still, there was one person who noticed. A girl with curly brown hair named Hannah Beckett sat down across from her one day. "You new here, right?" Hannah. Nia looked up from her book. "Yeah, just moved here last week." "Cool. Madison's kind of boring, but the people aren't too bad. Well, most of them." Her tone made Nia laugh for the first time since moving. That's when Hannah lowered her voice and said, "Just be careful around Logan Pierce. He runs this place like it's his own show." Nia tilted her head. "What do you mean, runs it?" "He decides who's in, who's out. Teachers don't do much about it either. His dad's on the school board." Nia shrugged. "I've dealt with worse." And she had. Back in Atlanta, her last school wasn't exactly kind either. But Nia had learned to pick her battles. She'd learned that silence could speak louder than anger, and walking away could sometimes be the strongest move. Still, there was something about Westbrook that felt heavier. The way eyes lingered on her hair, her skin, her accent. It wasn't openly hostile, but it wasn't friendly either. She told her mom about it over dinner one night. "They look at me weird, like I'm out of place," she said quietly. Her mom put down her fork. "Baby, sometimes people fear what they don't understand. But don't let that stop you from being yourself. You've got something they don't. Grace." Nia smiled at that. Her mom always said grace was her strength, not just how she carried herself, but how she handled others when they tried to break her. And for a while, things seemed okay. She went to class, kept to herself, and started to feel a little more at ease. But the peace didn't last long. Logan Pierce had noticed her, and for reasons no one could quite explain, her calm confidence rubbed him the wrong way. He'd never had anyone ignore him before, never had someone not flinch when he threw his weight around. And the moment she didn't react to his first comment, something inside him decided he needed to break that calm. But before that moment came, Logan's own story was unfolding quietly behind closed doors, one that would make everything that happened in that cafeteria make a whole lot more sense. Logan Pierce wasn't just another student. He was Westbrook High's golden boy, captain of the soccer team, straight A's when he cared enough to try, and the son of Gregory Pierce, the vice president of the local school board. Around teachers, he smiled and played the part. Around his friends, he ran things like a show. But what people didn't see, what they couldn't see, was what happened when he went home. The Pierce house sat at the end of Langdon Street in one of those quiet neighborhoods where lawns looked too perfect to be real. Inside, it was a different story. His father's voice was the loudest thing in the house. "Discipline, Logan! Discipline is what separates winners from losers," his father barked almost every evening. Logan would just nod, clenching his jaw, keeping his voice low. His mother rarely spoke when his dad was around. She just moved through the house quietly, like a shadow. The pressure never stopped. It didn't matter if Logan scored 2 goals or aced his tests. His father always found something missing. "You could have done better. You always stop short." At school, though, Logan had control. He was the one calling the shots. He decided who was popular, who got humiliated, and who was invisible. It was cruel, sure. But for him, it was power. And power was the only thing that ever made him feel safe. When Nia showed up, that safety cracked a little. He first saw her in the hallway outside history class. She was leaning against the wall, reading something while waiting for the bell. Her earbuds dangled loose, her hair pulled up in a bun, her eyes focused. She didn't even look up when he walked by with his friends. He made a joke loud enough for her to hear, something about Southern charm. No reaction. He tried again the next day. "You don't talk much, huh?" Still nothing. She just said quietly, "Not to people who talk nonsense." His friends laughed, but not at her, at him, and that stung. From that moment, she was in his head. He told himself she was disrespectful, arrogant, acting like she was better than him. But deep down, it wasn't anger he felt. It was something else, something he didn't know how to deal with. At night, he'd stare at his ceiling, replaying it. Why did she make him feel so small without even saying much? Why did her silence bother him more than any insult? The next week, his father found out he'd been benched for 1 game after skipping practice. "Pathetic," Gregory hissed. "If you can't control your team, you're not a leader." "You're a disappointment," Logan said nothing. He just went to his room, slammed the door, and punched his pillow until his knuckles hurt. That's when the anger started building, the kind that didn't go away. And when he saw Nia again, sitting in the cafeteria quietly, that anger finally found a target. He convinced himself it was harmless, just a joke, a little push to remind her who she was dealing with. But the truth was, Logan wasn't just trying to humiliate her. He was trying to silence something inside himself. That deep, gnawing voice telling him he wasn't as powerful as he thought. And that was the beginning of the end. Because when someone like Logan feels powerless, they look for someone else to hurt. And this time, he picked the wrong person. But before the cafeteria moment came, the tension between them had already started to boil. Quiet stares, cutting words, and small acts that pushed both of them closer to that breaking point. By the second week of November, everyone at Westbrook High could feel it. That quiet tension between Nia and Logan. It was the kind of thing you couldn't name, but felt in the air. Every lunch period, every hallway glance, it grew a little heavier. At first, it started small. Logan would whisper something when she walked by, little jabs that seemed harmless on the surface, but cut deep all the same. "Careful, she might hex you," he'd joke once, earning laughs from his table. Nia just kept walking, holding her tray tight, pretending not to hear. Hannah noticed. "Why don't you tell someone?" she asked one afternoon as they walked out of English class. Nia shook her head. "And say what? That he doesn't like me? They'll just tell me to ignore him." Hannah frowned. "Yeah, but this isn't normal. He's obsessed with you, Nia. You should see the way he stares." Nia didn't respond. She didn't like giving people like Logan power by talking about them, but deep down, she felt it too. That sense that he wasn't done with her yet. In the cafeteria, the pattern repeated every day. Logan sat at his usual table with his crew, Tyler, Evan, and Mitch, the loudest boys in school. They'd point, laugh, and whisper just loud enough for her to catch pieces. "Think she's too good for us? Probably thinks we're just small-town idiots. Bet she's scared." She wasn't scared. She was tired. Still, one part of her couldn't help wondering why. Why her? Why this constant need to push? Then one Friday, things started to shift. During gym class, the coach paired them for a team drill. The second their names were called, half the class let out a low, "Ooh," waiting for a show. Logan smirked like he'd been given an opportunity. "You sure you can keep up, Coleman?" he said. "Guess we'll see," she answered. When the whistle blew, she outran him. 3 times. The coach clapped. "Nice work, Coleman." Logan's grin disappeared. He kicked the ball a little too hard at the fence and muttered something under his breath. After class, he passed her in the hallway and muttered, "Enjoy your little moment. It won't last." That night, Hannah texted Nia, "Be careful tomorrow, he's in a mood." Saturday came and went quietly, but on Monday, everything broke. The cafeteria smelled like pizza and bleach that day. Students were crammed into tables, talking over one another. Nia walked in with Hannah, tray in hand, scanning for an open seat. They spotted one near the window, a few tables away from Logan's group. As she walked by, Logan stuck out his foot just slightly, enough to make her trip if she wasn't paying attention. But she saw it. She stopped, looked him dead in the eye and said, "You really that desperate for attention?" His friends laughed, and for a split second, she thought that was it. But Logan couldn't let it go. When she passed him again a few minutes later, he accidentally bumped her tray. Food spilled everywhere. Macaroni, juice, fruit cup. The room went silent for just a beat, waiting for her reaction. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and bent down to clean up the mess. But Logan didn't move. He just stared at her, like daring her to fight back. "You don't belong here," he said quietly, almost too low to hear. That was it. Nia stood up slowly, tray in one hand, sauce dripping from her sleeve. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with something fierce. "You keep saying that like it's supposed to bother me." And before anyone could process what was happening, he shoved her shoulder, hard. The crash of her tray hitting the floor silenced the room. Every eye turned to them. What happened next, no one saw coming. Because in the next 60 seconds, Logan Pierce, the untouchable king of Westbrook High, would be the one on the floor, crying in front of everyone. And Nia Coleman wouldn't even lay a hand on him. But to understand how it happened, you have to see that moment from inside the cafeteria, from the people who watched it all unfold. It happened fast, so fast that most people couldn't even tell what they'd just seen. The cafeteria noise dropped to nothing the second Logan's hand hit Nia's shoulder. Trays froze mid-air. A carton of milk rolled off a table and splattered on the floor, but no one moved. All eyes were locked on the two of them. "Logan!" someone called out, half laughing, half unsure. Nia took one step back, her sleeve dripping, her jaw tight. But she didn't shout, didn't swing, didn't even blink. She just stared at him. For a second, Logan looked proud, like he'd won, like he finally cracked her calm. Then his smile faltered. He blinked, eyes darting from her face to his hands, like he wasn't sure what was happening. His breath hitched. "What the?" He bent over slightly, one hand gripping his stomach, his face twisted in pain. At first, everyone thought he was faking it, another show for attention, but then he dropped to his knees. A low, choked sound left his throat, and the whole room froze. "Yo, Logan?" "Bro, you good?" Tyler asked, stepping closer. Logan didn't answer. His face was pale now, his body shaking. His friends backed away. Someone yelled for a teacher. Mrs. Arnold, the cafeteria supervisor, came running over. "What's going on?" He just fell," Tyler stammered. "She didn't even touch him." The teacher looked at Nia. "Did you?" "No," Nia said quietly. Her voice didn't shake. "I didn't touch him." Her calmness made everything worse. Students whispered from their tables, phones lifted, filming every second. "Yo, she cursed him," someone joked from the back. Another voice hissed, "Man, that's creepy." But Nia didn't react. She knelt down beside her spilled tray, picked up what was left, and said softly to herself, "You shouldn't have done that." Then she stood, walked past everyone, and left. The door slammed behind her, and the silence that followed was almost unbearable. Paramedics arrived minutes later. They carried Logan out on a stretcher while he mumbled, "She didn't hit me. She didn't hit me," over and over like he was convincing himself. That clip, those exact words, were all over social media by the end of the day. "She didn't hit me" became a meme, a joke, a rumor magnet. Some said she practiced martial arts and hit him faster than anyone could see. Others swore she did something psychological, whatever that meant. One rumor said her dad was some kind of soldier who taught her pressure points. The truth? Nobody knew. But one thing was clear. Logan wasn't the same after that day. He didn't come to school the next morning, or the day after. For a week, his friends whispered about how weird he'd been since it happened, jumping at noises, keeping to himself, not eating lunch. Meanwhile, Nia came to school every day like nothing had happened, sat at her table, ate her sandwich, went to class. People avoided her at first, unsure what to believe, but Hannah stayed close. "You okay?" she whispered one day. "I'm fine," Nia replied, eyes on her notebook. "He just learned something he needed to learn." "What's that?" "That power doesn't always look the way you think it does." The bell rang before Hannah could ask more. By the end of that week, the principal's office called both families in. Nia's mom showed up still in her scrubs, calm but tired. Logan's father arrived in a suit, angry before even sitting down. He wanted Nia expelled. He wanted answers. But the school had no proof she'd done anything wrong. No contact. No evidence. Just a video of Logan collapsing on his own. So they let her go with a warning to be careful. Logan, though, was sent home for medical observation. His father wasn't happy about that. And that's when everything started to unravel. Because behind that angry father and the silent son was a truth that had been building for years, waiting to crack open. But before that truth came out, Logan's behavior would take a strange turn, one that even his closest friends couldn't explain. By the next morning, Westbrook High was in chaos. Students huddled in corners whispering, teachers pretended not to notice the tension, and the cafeteria, once the loudest place in school, felt like a crime scene. The video of Logan collapsing had spread everywhere. It wasn't just in student group chats anymore. It was on TikTok, local Facebook groups, even one of those weird small-town mystery Reddit pages. The caption under most clips read, "The girl who made the bully cry without touching him." Some laughed, others said it was fake. But for the people who were there, it was very, very real. Nia could feel it the second she walked into the hallway. Eyes followed her. Conversations stopped when she passed. Even some teachers gave her that cautious look. The one that said, "I don't know what you did, but I don't want it to happen to me." Hannah tried to lighten the mood. "You know, if this whole school thing doesn't work out, you could start your own self-defense class." Nia smirked. "Maybe." Step 1. Stay calm. But beneath the humor, she felt the weight of it. She never wanted attention like this. All she wanted was peace. A normal school year, friends, quiet lunches. Instead, she was now the center of something strange and misunderstood. At home, her mom noticed the change. "How was school?" Denise asked one night as she reheated leftovers. "Fine," Nia said automatically. Her mom raised an eyebrow. "That kind of fine, or the don't ask me any more questions kind of fine?" Nia sighed. "People keep talking about what happened. They're making up stories. Some of them sound crazy." Denise leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Baby, people love to talk when they don't understand something. But you know who you are. Let them talk. Nia nodded, though part of her still wondered why Logan reacted the way he did. She hadn't hit him. She hadn't even raised her voice, but she had said something. Something simple, but something that hit deeper than she realized. Meanwhile, Logan was spiraling. His friends texted him, but he barely replied. When he did, it was short. Not feeling well. Drop it. Tyler told people he was seeing a doctor. He's been off, he admitted to a group at lunch. Like, jumpy. I tried to joke about the video and he snapped. Others said he hadn't slept since that day. His mom started showing up to school to talk to the principal, while his dad made angry phone calls to the district. By the end of the week, the rumor mill shifted again, this time toward Logan. Some said it was guilt. Others said karma. One kid whispered that Logan saw something when he looked into Nia's eyes that day, something that messed him up. And as ridiculous as that sounded, the way he started acting made people wonder. He came back to school the following Monday. His swagger was gone. He kept his head down, no loud jokes, no smirks, no taunting, just silence. At lunch, he sat at the edge of the cafeteria alone. When Nia walked in, his eyes flickered up for a second, then quickly dropped back to his tray. Even Hannah noticed. Okay, what's his deal? He looks like he saw a ghost. Nia hesitated. Maybe he finally saw himself. For a while, things seemed to calm down. The gossip faded. Teachers pretended everything was normal. But the story didn't end there. Because Logan wasn't just quiet. He was different. He stopped hanging out with his old friends. He avoided the soccer field. He flinched when people touched his shoulder. And one afternoon, after school, Hannah spotted him sitting alone in the parking lot, staring at nothing. When she told Nia about it, Nia's first instinct wasn't anger or satisfaction. It was something closer to pity. Something's wrong with him, Hannah said softly. Nia nodded. Yeah, but it's not me he's fighting. That night, as she lay in bed, she couldn't stop thinking about that moment in the cafeteria. The look in his eyes just before he fell. It wasn't pain she'd seen, it was fear, and that fear didn't come from her. It came from somewhere else. Something that had been living inside him long before she ever showed up. But what no one at Westbrook knew was that Logan's collapse wasn't the beginning of his breakdown. It was the first time anyone saw it. And the truth behind it would finally come out sooner than anyone expected. It was the guidance counselor, Mr. Travis, who finally called Logan in. He'd been watching him closely since the incident. The quietness, the slipping grades, the hollow stare during class. When Logan showed up to his office that Wednesday afternoon, he looked exhausted. His hair was messy, eyes shadowed like he hadn't slept in days. Mr. Travis closed the door and sat across from him. Logan, I'm not here to punish you. I just want to talk. Logan rubbed his face, eyes down. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. Nobody thinks that. He laughed bitterly. They do. I see the way they look at me. Like I'm broken. Mr. Travis leaned forward. Then tell me what happened that day. Not what people think happened. What did you feel? For a long moment, Logan said nothing. Then he whispered, when I pushed her, something hit me back. But not physically. It was like all the stuff I'd been holding in, the yelling, the pressure, the things my dad says. It all came at me at once, like my own anger turned on me. Mr. Travis frowned. And Nia didn't touch you? Logan shook his head. No, she just looked at me. Like she knew what? He hesitated, then said quietly, that I hate myself more than I ever hated her. The counselor didn't respond right away. He'd heard things like this before, not about cafeteria fights, but about kids crumbling under invisible weight. Logan, he said softly, what's going on at home? Logan's jaw tightened. My dad, he doesn't think I'm enough. Never has. It's always something. Grades, soccer, attitude. He calls it tough love. I call it losing myself. Mr. Travis nodded slowly. You've been angry for a long time. Yeah, Logan muttered. And that day, I thought if I could make someone else feel small, I'd feel big again. He looked up, eyes glassy. But when I saw her just standing there, calm, not scared, It was like everything I've done to people came back on me. Like I finally saw who I really am, and I hated it. For the first time, Mr. Travis saw not a bully, but a kid who'd never been allowed to feel weak without punishment. Meanwhile, Nia didn't know about this conversation. She was sitting in the library after school working on a history paper when someone tapped her shoulder. It was Logan. She looked up slowly, cautious. He looked nothing like the loud boy from before. His voice was quiet. "Can we talk?" The librarian gave them a glance but didn't intervene. They stepped outside into the empty hallway. Logan swallowed hard. "I don't know how to start. I'm sorry." Nia didn't respond right away. She crossed her arms, watching him. "You think sorry fixes what you did?" "No," he said quickly. "I don't. I just needed to say it." He rubbed his hands together, voice cracking. "When I pushed you, it wasn't about you. It was about me. I've been angry for so long, I don't even know who I am without it." For the first time, Nia saw something different in his eyes. Not arrogance, but honesty. She took a breath. "You don't have to be the person your dad made you," she said quietly. "You can choose better." He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. "I don't know how." "You start by meaning what you just said." They stood in silence for a moment, the kind that didn't feel tense this time. Then Nia added, "What happened in that cafeteria? That wasn't me doing something to you. That was you finally facing yourself." Logan nodded slowly. "I know." Before walking away, she said softly, "You still have time to change. Just don't waste it." That night, Logan sat in his room, staring at the wall covered with trophies his father forced him to earn. For the first time, he didn't feel proud. He felt empty. Downstairs, he heard his parents arguing again. This time, he didn't yell, didn't break anything. He just closed his door, grabbed his notebook, and started writing. He wrote for hours. Everything he never said, everything he'd buried. And when he was done, he wrote one last sentence. "I'm done being the person who hurts others to feel alive." The next day, he went to Mr. Travis's office and signed up for peer counseling sessions. The same program Nia had joined a week earlier to help new students adjust. And that's where they saw each other again. Not as enemies, but as two people learning how to rebuild what anger had broken. But before their story could end, there was one last moment between them. One that would remind everyone watching that strength isn't about power, it's about grace. The following Friday, the school gym was set up for an assembly on respect and empathy, something the principal called a learning moment after what happened in the cafeteria. Most students rolled their eyes, thinking it'd be another boring lecture, but then they saw who walked onto the stage, Nia Coleman, and right beside her, Logan Pierce. The murmurs started instantly. Phones came out. Even the teachers looked unsure, but when Nia took the microphone, her voice was steady. "I didn't want to be up here," she began. "I didn't want attention. I just wanted peace." The crowd went still. She looked over at Logan before continuing. "A few weeks ago, something happened that shouldn't have. But what shocked me wasn't the shove, or the videos, or the rumors. It was how fast people turned it into a story instead of seeing the people inside it." Her eyes swept across the crowd. "Every one of us is fighting something we don't talk about. Pain, pressure, family stuff, fear. We think if we bury it, it goes away. But it doesn't. It spills out. Sometimes it hurts other people." Then she paused and stepped aside. Logan took the mic, his hands shaking a little. He looked out at the sea of faces, many of them kids who used to laugh at his jokes. "I was that person. I made people feel small because it made me feel big. I thought power meant control. I thought being feared meant being respected." He swallowed hard. "But I learned something that day in the cafeteria. Power isn't about making others afraid. It's about having the strength to face your own pain and not let it turn you into someone you hate." The room was silent. Even the teachers, who had probably expected a rehearsed apology, looked moved. Logan's voice softened. "I hurt someone who didn't deserve it. And the worst part is, she gave me more grace than I gave her humanity." He looked at Nia. "I can't take back what I did, but I can change what I do next." The applause didn't come right away. It came slowly, building like a wave. first from the back rows, then spreading forward until nearly the whole gym was clapping. Afterward, when the assembly ended, kids approached Nia, not out of curiosity, but out of respect. Some said, "Thank you." Some just smiled. Hannah hugged her tight. "You really did that," she whispered. Nia smiled faintly. He did too. Because in truth, both of them had changed that day. She had learned that silence could be powerful, but forgiveness, that was something else entirely. Later that afternoon, Logan found her by the lockers. No crowd this time, no cameras. "Hey," he said, "I talked to my dad last night." Nia looked up. "How'd that go?" Logan let out a small laugh. "It didn't fix everything. But I told him how I felt. For once, I didn't yell. I just said the truth." "That's a start," she said. He nodded. "You taught me something that day." "What's that?" "That calm doesn't mean weak, and standing your ground doesn't mean fighting back. Sometimes it's about not letting someone else's anger own you." She smiled. "Now you're getting it." The bell rang, echoing through the halls, and for a brief moment, everything felt normal again. Not because the past was forgotten, but because both of them had faced it. Nia walked toward her next class, the same quiet grace in her step that she'd carried since day one. But this time, the stares that followed her weren't filled with judgment. They were filled with something closer to admiration. Logan watched her go, then picked up his backpack and followed the hallway out into the sunlight, shoulders lighter than they'd been in a long time. That night, Nia wrote a single line in her journal before bed. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is forgive the person who hurt you, even if they never deserved it. And maybe that's what life at Westbrook High had been missing all along. The reminder that change doesn't start with punishment. It starts with understanding. Because the truth is, you never know what someone's carrying. The smallest act of grace can change everything. Not just for them, but for you too. So here's the message. If someone's pushing you down, don't let their pain become yours. If you've hurt someone, own it. Learn, apologize. And if you ever see someone standing alone, be the person who walks over and says, "Hey, I see you." That's how change starts. Because strength isn't loud, it's quiet, it's calm. It's choosing peace when you could choose pain. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away with your head held high.